So it's time to start prepping the body blank for the GGBO build. This is an old piece of pine. The building that it came out of, this was an original part of the building. The home was built in 1940. So this wood is 80, 81, 82 years old, something like that. So it's well seasoned. But now this is reclaimed wood. This is what you've got to deal with reclaimed wood. I pulled probably five, maybe six, but I think like 5 of these big nails out of this wood. And the thing of it is, I took a rare earth magnet and went all over the surfaces of this piece of wood to try to find any and all pieces of metal that may be in this. But when you're building with wood like this, there's always a chance that you missed a piece. This is part of building with this type of wood. It is something that you just have to deal with. So this piece of wood is 17 and 14/16 wide by 44 inches long by 2 1/4 inches deep. So this is rough lumber. It was not milled like they mill them at Home Depot or Lowe's or any of those things. So I'm going to have to use what I have. That's also part of the joy of working with wood like this, is that it most of the time has a particular kind of character. Now you're into that or you're not. I'm into it. I don't know if you can hear me. Usually I narrate my videos after I shoot them. But we're going to try this and see how it works. It'll either work or it won't. If it doesn't, then I will switch to narration. And we're just trying to find a place that I can clamp this. I don't think that's going to work. I think that's going to interfere with the saw. Yes. So let's see. You can see that I flattened my bench top a bit. That's something, if you got a bench that you're using outdoors, it's never really going to be flat for very long. But I try to do that about once a year. Now this does not have to be absolutely perfect. Just close enough. But I basically what I did was mark a halfway point. It's 44 inches, so I marked 22 from each end. And we'll work with what we got. This way. All right. Lovely. As I believe that I said earlier, the body blank material is 2¼ inch thick. Normally I would thickness this with a hand plane, but 1/2 inch is an awful lot of wood to hog off with a hand plane, so I moved to my router sled. You will see these on YouTube quite a bit. They can be very simply designed like mine, or very complex. If you like the complex kind of stuff, then please go ahead and do that. But I don't spend time building jigs. I just build them so they work and move on. I would rather spend the time building instruments as opposed to building the jigs. But some of the jigs can be quite beautiful and really very nicely done, and if that's your thing, there's something to be said about building with nice tools. This has been a good router. I've used it at least 10 years to build guitars. Remember the little discussion we had about you never know what's in these things? You see that right there? That's a piece of metal. Where it came from, excuse me, where it came from, I don't have any clue. There's no entry point anywhere on this wood, but there it is. And my router bit hit it, and it's going to hit it again because I need to take at least another 30-second off of this. It is what it is, but those are the risks you run. If that had been a really big one, it might have shattered my rod a bit. I might have been injured. That's also the risks that you take, for what it's worth. Once I got everything flat, what I did was run it through my table saw to get the edges that I'm going to joint as square as I could. My table saw was old when I got it. It had been beat to death. It's an old contractor saw, and the friend of mine that gave it to me realized that it was past its prime and needed to be replaced. And he said, hey man, you know, I got to replace this saw, and it's not the greatest, but if you want it, you can have it. So I said, yeah, give it here. And but it will not do an exact 90 degrees. It's like just a tiny bit, not even 1 degree, but just a tiny bit off, just enough that you have to true this edge up, which I do with a hand plane before I joint, or before I join. The process of doing this is called jointing, and gluing it together is called joining in my vocabulary. But I just plane it until it's nice and smooth and everything is square, so that the two pieces mate together well. There's nothing, I don't think, quite like a hand plane for something like this. and it's a lot quieter than a power tool, which is why I love hand planes and hand tools in general. And I don't use any fancy, sophisticated, machine tolerance kind of straight edges. A simple straight edge like that works just fine to do something like this. As long as I don't see any gaps under that, the thing will mate up just fine. Not in 10 or 12 years of building have I ever had a problem. And so now basically it's time for the glue up. And I just use regular old Titebond original. There's no need for biscuit joints or any kind of thing like that. If your gluing surfaces are mated properly, you don't need any of that. Now, if you've got it and you want to use it, it's not going to hurt anything. But as long as my joint is done right, it's square and everything mates right, all you need is Titebond and some clamps. I think I'm going to love this wood. Well, I already do love this wood. And I really like these Harbor Freight clamps. One of the things, these clamps from Harbor Freight and I think they're called an F-style clamp, I'm not quite sure, are really good value for money. So are their C clamps. Some of their clamps, like the ones that you kind of squeeze, I forget what they're called, but that have the plastic handles that you squeeze and stuff, they will break very easily and they're not worth buying. But these, the C clamps, I think, like I said, they're called an F-style clamp. Those from Harbor Freight, they are really good quality for the money and well worth spending your money on. I actually want about 3 or 4 more of these and probably 6 or so more of the F-style clamps. And I eventually will purchase them. And now what I'm going to do is just take some wood shavings and kind of smear and clean this glue. It won't be perfect. I'll leave a bit of a smear on the body and stuff like that. But the body's going to have a little lip on it, and I'm going to have to plane that flat or sand that flat and smooth, so this is all going to go away. I just don't want big piles of glue and stuff like that on it if I don't have to have it. I can flip it over and do the same to the other side, but it's in the clamps, it's tight and clamped up. I'm not going to move it around very much or anything of the sort, and it'll set at least overnight. It actually, as of making this video, I think it's set for a day and a half to 2 days. Can't remember quite when I actually shot this footage as opposed to now that I'm editing it, but hey, something like that. I want to thank everybody for watching. I look forward to watching everybody else's builds with the Great Guitar Build Off 2022. Much appreciated, and I'll see you next time around. Bless you. Later.